Welcome to the Gallery and Hurley Unfiltered podcast, Iowa Football Rewind.
Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast player to get a behind-the-scenes look that you won't find anywhere else. All right, so we got Aaron Granquist here, another one of our roommates. Welcome, Aaron. I'll give everyone a little background. So you joined the team for the 95 season, 96 seasons?
I was there in 94. I did redshirt in 94, though.
That's right.
So I did come in the same class as like Nipper and those guys, even though they were freshmen and I was a redshirt sophomore or whatever.
Okay, so 94 season, redshirt, and then 95, 96. So we all graduated the same year. But you came from Waldorf as a second team JUCO All-American. Tell us a little bit about your football history and maybe other sports as well. But what got you into football and lead us all the way up to the point of joining the Iowa team, how you got recruited here, and we'll go from there.
So growing up, basketball was actually my favorite sport. So I had my walls covered with Michael Jordan and Charles Barkley posters and Dominique Wilkins. You know, looking at my family's legacy of height, I knew that was probably not going to be my future. And I ended up with more of a football body than a basketball body, at least to play at a high D1 level. But Waldorf, which was a small junior college at that time in Forest City, I think they're now a four-year school, like NAIA. They could give scholarships, and they offered scholarships to play both basketball and football. And since I really liked basketball, that was my favorite sport. I thought maybe I can continue playing a little bit longer. I was certainly not Gazette Athlete of the Year in high school, like someone else on this call. I was very lightly recruited. So, I was maybe third team All-State or something like that. I don't know if you've researched it, but I don't even know. I had an opportunity to play both sports at Waldorf, and it was also fairly close by to Osage, where I grew up, home of the Green Devils. And so went over there with the intent of mostly focusing on defense on the football team, and then, small forward or something like that with basketball. And did start out as like a defensive end. They had some injuries at fullback, and they ran a veer option offense there. So the quarterback would basically fake or hand off to the fullback, running kind of out either to the 6 or the 7. Well, just wide, basically. They're crashing down on the defensive end or the tackle and leaving one guy open or unblocked to option off of. So he would fake to the fullback, and then either give it or keep it and run down the line, and then he could either run with it or pitch it to the I-back. So it was a very run-centric offense that they ran. Because of some injuries, they moved me over to the offensive side of the ball because they knew that I had played fullback basically in high school. I ended up starting my second or third game as a freshman there and ran for like 800 yards that season. And we had a pretty good season that year, but nothing to draw a lot of attention. But then the next year, I stayed on offense and ended up becoming second in the nation in rushing yards as a fullback, which is kind of amazing. And we had the number one offense in all of the nation as well, which was pretty cool. And we did end up losing a couple games, but played in the RC Cola Bowl in the Unidome and dominated some team from Minnesota in that one. So that was pretty fun. I think we ended up 9-2. But then the recruiting kind of picked up a little bit more. Even then, there wasn't a lot of D1 programs featuring fullbacks. So I got a little bit of interest from Syracuse, who they used to run an option there. And for some reason, BYU was interested, even though they were more of a pass-happy, spread offense. But those were the two official visits I took back in the day. And that was an interesting contrast. BYU is known as a dry campus. And so, there was basically, I did not see any alcohol at all on that trip, which was interesting, but they did take us up into the mountains, and we got to ride snowmobiles up at Sundance, which was the resort that Robert Redford owns. And so that was kind of cool to do that. I thought I was going to be cool and go off this little jump or drift that I saw, and ended up flipping the snowmobile on its head and busted the windshield. But I didn't get hurt, and they didn't make me pay for it. So, but I also didn't get a scholarship offer after that. So Lavelle Edwards was the head coach at the time. The thing that really stood out from that recruiting trip was he had a button that would open and shut the door, so he didn't have to get up out of his seat to shut his office door. But look, I did have a one-on-one with Lavelle Edwards back in the day. That was kind of interesting.
Did you think you were going to get an offer when you went out there? I mean, they wouldn't have brought you out.
Well, yeah, I thought I would have. Now I had left out an important point, is that I actually had been recovering from a case of mono and had lost like 15 pounds. So when they measured me, they actually weighed me out there, and I weighed like 218 or something that wasn't really fullback sized, at least at the Division I level. I had normally played around 230 or so. So that might have contributed to it, even though I did tell them that was one of the issues I was dealing with. And Syracuse was also pretty interested. They did end up offering pretty late, but by then I had already reached out to Iowa and didn't really feel comfortable relocating all the way up to upstate New York. I could have gone Division II, a bunch of places, but I thought, if I'm getting a little bit of interest at Division I might as well give it a try. And so I got in touch with Coach Dave Triplett, who you both know pretty well. And he said, well, yeah, you can come to Iowa. We don't have a scholarship for you, but, you'd be a preferred walk-on and be able to come, and report early to camp with all the scholarship players. And I said, well, that seems like a pretty good option. So still pretty close to home. And I'd always been a Hawkeye fan. So just to have a handwritten note from him saying that we'd love to have you join the team was pretty much enough for me.
Who was in the running back room at that time?
Well, of course, Kent Call was there in 94. I think, was he in 94 or 95? I think 95 was his senior year.
It was 94.
Kent Call, of course, was there. You had
Berger?
Yeah, Berger came in and as a freshman that year. So did Bowlers, but some of the older guys were Damani Shakur. We also had Ryan Terry. He was hilarious, that guy. He was always cracking jokes, him and Sed Shaw in the position room. Of course, Tavian Banks was there. Yeah. Reggie Williams was there. Yeah, Reggie was a great guy. Definitely, there were some walk-ons too, which I was one of them. So I'm not certainly putting those folks down, but yeah, it was kind of a fun room. Ryan Terry and Sed Shaw were always cracking jokes, and they would get Kent Call laughing, and it was, man, it was funny stuff. Oh yeah, Rod Filer. How can I forget about Rod the Bod?
So what was your mindset like coming in as a walk-on? Like you were hoping to work your way into it. You were kind of happy to be there. Like, expound a little bit just on that mindset and like how you felt at that time and like what it was like, and how you received it on that.
So I was hoping, maybe I could get on the field in some special teams situations at some point. That summer they were building the new, which isn't new anymore, the Jacobson Athletic Complex. So the weight room, the old weight room that both of you started with, was not available, and we all had to work out on that second level in the rec building. Just getting into a program, a strength and conditioning program like that, it was night and day different than junior college. And just that summer, I was amazed at kind of the gains I made, both speed and strength, and that just continued throughout that year. And I was just like, I got to work hard. I got to be the best scout team guy that I can be to show, the first and second team defense, a good look so that they're prepared. And I really just had a team first approach to it. And, Brett Bielema was running our scout team at that time. And, he's a big rah-rah guy and was getting us pumped up. And, yeah, it was just just contribute to the team as much as I can and try not to get into too many fights.
Fights meaning that the offensive and defense go at each other, because just the nature of competition and trying to make everybody better. Is that what you're saying? Fights wise?
Yeah. I mean, I was going pretty hard, and I was a pretty big dude at that point. I got a little bit bigger towards my junior and senior year, but one of the best experiences I had was Purdue week, because that was when Mike Alstott was at Purdue. And so they had I got to be Mike Alstott for 1 week, which was pretty cool. Just running, like I was in the I formation and getting a pretty good head of steam running downhill against our first team defense. And there's some times when they were not happy with how hard I was going and how, some of the licks I put on them, but it's not like I wasn't getting some of that myself. JUCO was tried to fight me once.
Right. I was to say, you had the neckroll though to save you though, right? Are you upset that the neckroll is no longer relevant?
If you look at the history book, I think I had the biggest neck roll in the Big Ten. Easily.
I can pull up some pictures. I'll post that on the video.
Oh yeah. You definitely got to put one of those out there. Actually, the reason that came about was I had all sorts of neck problems at Waldorf, just, the nature of playing football. And it wasn't until I found that with the new weight room, they put that neck machine in there. The neck machine, I spent a lot of time on that neck machine, just going this way and this way and this way and this way, with, loaded up with weights and stuff like that. And
Awesome.
That's when I had to buy a whole lot more dress shirts, because the neck size grew exponentially. I think I ended up with a 19-inch neck at one point, which was wider than my head. So it was about like this. And that was pretty fun.
So you really didn't need the neck roll then.
Well, probably by then, by then it was kind of an intimidation factor.
Looked pretty good though, yeah. Being a fullback has got to be interesting because you're really close to the action, but you don't really get the ball that much, except for, as you said, like at Waldorf. What's that like? And could you tell when a play was really going to be wide open? Like you're going to see, like you could tell the guy behind you was probably going to break a long run, or was it just kind of it was a hit or miss thing?
Yeah, I mean, what was interesting is that by the halfway through my junior year, after Rodney Filer had gotten hurt, basically me and Berger were rotating plays. Mike Berger, he was the official starter and probably, certainly played the majority of the snaps, but that's how we were running the plays in. So it was kind of cool to have Hayden Fry give me a play and running it in and telling Matt Sherman what we're going to do. And yeah, it was kind of cool. You knew when a play came in, based on the personnel or how they were lining up, that this has a chance to be successful. And what I really like doing, I mean, it was fun to do ISO plays where, I had a chance to just do a one-on-one block with a linebacker, but I really loved the ones where we had a power, where I had a chance to come down the line kind of diagonally and hit the defensive end. Those guys were usually a little bit bigger. And that was kind of fun to tee off on those guys occasionally. You could, just out of the corner of your eye, if you saw that the tackle and the guard had a nice seal and left that guy just kind of standing in space waiting to get blasted, that it could end up being a nice play. And there's a few times that worked with Tavian or with Sedshaw. And yeah, those are fun plays.
Do you ever butcher any of the plays, like reverse any calls or forget what Coach Fry said?
Not that I recall, nothing that jumps out. I'm sure there was something, but Matt Sherman was so smart, he could always correct it, be like, "Oh, this is what he means." I mean, yeah, that's what he said.
Sherman would save you.
Yeah, and
that's not a play.
Honestly, I mean, Hayden's great, but there are a few times when he'd say something and I'd bring it in. I go, "Matt, this is what he said. What do you think he meant?" and he'd be like, "Okay, we're doing this." And that everybody's human, and that's what's interesting. I mean, I have so much respect for Hayden, but having grown up in Iowa, as both of you did, he was almost this mythical person, and you don't realize that when you actually get in the same room with him and get to know him, that, and he's got awesome qualities, but he's a human too. We're all fallible, and can make mistakes. Now, he didn't make many more mistakes, but he certainly was great at motivating and putting the right people in place to be successful. And that's what I really take away from his building of the Iowa program.
I think one of the most impressive things about him was his ability to remember people and bits of information about them. Like he would see, like my family or someone he'd met, a handful of times in like kind of specific situations and ask them something that he had talked about with them last time. I think that was like one of his knacks of just being able to connect with those people. Do you have any other good stories about Hayden?
Well, of course, we would break it down at the end of every practice, and if someone had a birthday or something cool, we would just do the one clap applause. Just on three, 1, 2, 3, and we'd clap once, and that's all you get. You wouldn't get 10 minutes of people clapping and be like, when are we going to be done with this? It was just one clap, and he was to the point, and that's all you needed for your birthday or whatever.
He did have some Texasisms that some of those I was like, I don't really understand what that meant. It sounded great, but I was like, what was that?
I know. And the strange thing is I was born in Texas when my dad was in the Air Force, and they never gave me the book of Texasisms or Texas phrases so I could translate that later. So I don't know why I didn't get that, even though I was a native.
When I think about Hayden, I think it just blends so much with when I grew up, and then like watching him on TV and reading newspaper articles and then playing, and it just like I can't separate the two with like when I was there or if it was something I saw on TV. It was just like he was just my whole life. That's all I knew was he was the football coach there.
Yeah.
So it's a little surreal, but yeah. And so it's like I don't know if that happened when I was there or some other time that I saw Hayden talk, like, or some press conference, like. But yeah, I mean, he's just got hundreds of them. I mean, you can pull up 100 of them right now, but yeah.
Remember that press conference where he showed up wearing overalls and a cowboy hat and the bandana? And I kept thinking, man, I really want him to do that at one of our meetings, I think that'd be hilarious.
Yeah. Never did get too crazy. Yeah, that was pretty classic. I think that was against Minnesota. He said, this is what y'all think of us. So I'm just gonna play up on the stereotype.
Yeah. Remember when he showed those banana peel uniforms to us in that meeting? That was kind of funny too.
Yeah, he hyped that really good, and I don't think anyone bought it.
The thing is that he was so far ahead of his time, because that's like what Oregon did 10 years later, or and it just he was too far ahead of his time, I guess.
Yeah.
He did, yeah, right. He had the aviator sunglasses, and he also had like the hats with like the scrambled eggs in the front. Like he had some serious style too back then.
I think those are called laurels. They're supposed to mimic what Caesar Augustus would wear. These laurels around his head, and so they started. Well, let's just put that on a hat, and they'll look like Caesar or something.
It'll look awesome.
Yeah, I learned that once. It's a random fact that bouncing around in my head.
At least we have the internet now. We can check some of those. Back in the day, we really couldn't. You tell us some stuff, and we're like, I don't know if I quite buy into that or not. So at least we could go. We can do a fact check on you.
Yeah. Hey, I have a question. That you posted that photo of us up at your farm, Nick.
Yeah.
And wasn't Tim Dwight on that trip too? Why wasn't he in the photo?
That's a good question. Yeah, he was.
Because I think there's two trips. We were talking to Price. He was saying that you guys put him to work and he was picking up rocks. I was like, I don't remember doing any labor there, but so maybe there was a second group of people that went up.
The one that I remember the most was when Tim was there and we went hunting. Just the carnage across Buchanan County was told for years in stories. But I remember him accidentally shooting the shotgun right next to Slutzker's head, straight up in the air. Didn't hurt anybody, but obviously that scared the crap out of me and especially Scott.
It was Derek. Derek mentioned that. That's the same trip. Yeah. Scott. Well, or it said he was next to Slutzker or him, but he said Dwight shot a gun without like any warning, and it almost shot someone accidentally. And so, but I think that's the trip he was talking about. So there, I think there's a second trip that maybe he's referring to with the picking up rocks and then going hunting. So I don't think there was hunting when I was there.
I think we learned our lesson about hunter safety at that point. It was like
Yeah.
not a great idea.
Yeah, so you didn't give Tim a gun, you gave him the rocks, and he could throw the rocks to hunt instead of using a gun.
Let's go back to Osage. So you're playing basketball and football. You said you didn't get any offers or a few offers.
I was pretty skinny. I was barely 200 pounds, but 6'3". And yeah, it was a lot of Division III other than the junior college opportunities. And I skipped kindergarten because of going to military schools early on. And so I was pretty young. I graduated at 17 and with starting in college at age 17 when I was at Waldorf. So I always was told that lifting hard would ruin my shot in basketball, but I never had a great shot anyway. So I should have just been lifting. I really should have been, but it really was probably just a lack of real consistent weight and strength and agility training. And it wasn't until I got to Iowa when that really, I guess I kind of bloomed there.
You're at what, 250, 255?
Yeah, my senior year, I think I weighed almost as much as Billy Reardon, our starting center. I was about 255. So yeah, that was nuts. I'm glad I don't weigh that much now. But
what was it like juggling two sports in college?
It was a little difficult. It was also, they had a coaching change. So the original basketball coach left like halfway through that fall. So they had an interim guy come in, and he was not the guy that offered me a scholarship. They obviously honored that, but he didn't like the fact that, I was a month and a half late to get with the team because of football. So I think there's a little bit of resentment there. So even though I thought I did pretty well, it's different getting in basketball shape after being on the football field for 3 months. And it was clear to me that, this isn't the future for me. So I continue to do my best that my freshman year playing basketball, but I decided I'm not gonna continue to do that the following year. And we had a mutual parting of the ways, but it was difficult. It was pretty much just football was the main priority until it was done. And then I switched to basketball. So there really wasn't a whole lot of juggling at the same time of the two sports, but that probably led to a little bit of resentment on the basketball coach's part.
You were saving yourself for Iowa intramurals, were you?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The three of us had a pretty good team. I think did we actually win it or just make it to the finals?
We lost to other football team.
Yeah, the one with Bill Ennison.
Franchise.
William
franchise.
Yeah, and
I think we were close. It was like a tight game. We lost by maybe a bucket or something. It was,
yeah.
I think, I wish there was video of that game. That would have been awesome.
That was pretty hyped. All I remember is the guy that was a basketball player. It was Daryl Moore. He dunked, and I was like, I think he just jumped over me. I was like, his athletic ability to dunk. I was like, oh wow, that was impressive.
That's another level. He was always just hanging around behind, on the baseline, waiting for a missed shot, and he would just jump and house it over us. It was like, okay, that's what he does. He just waits for rebounds and to throw them back in. Yeah, that guy was.
I think he walked on and ended up playing a bunch on the Iowa team.
Oh yeah. And he's still around this area. Actually, his kids went to Clear Creek, Amana, where my kids go to school, and my wife teaches there.
Okay.
And I see him around quite a bit. He's got a business called Court 45. He wore 45 at Iowa, and he coaches a lot of kids, and it's pretty successful business for him. And a lot of kids get a lot of good coaching out of it.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, but playing intramurals, that was a lot of fun. We had a pretty good squad, the three of us, and Jason House and Timmy D.
How did no one get hurt during those games? Is what I can't believe, right?
I thought they shut it down at some point. Say you guys
so
can't
much athleticism. Yeah, it was unreal. Take me back. You were talking about ISO on a linebacker. Who is the person that gave you the hardest hit, or Like who's the player you played against that were like, wow, that person is just on a different level?
Oh boy. The middle linebacker for Wisconsin in 96, well, 95 as well. Pete Monty. Do you remember that name?
I know Pete
He
Money, yeah,
was
sure.
he was with the Giants when I was in training camp. Yeah.
Okay. He was probably the toughest guy I ever went against in the Big Ten. And that includes like Andy Katzenmoyer. Like Katzenmoyer, I took him out several times, and he was, to me, that was, I would rather, yeah, he was, yeah, he didn't want to take contact, at least not that kind of contact. Where Pete Monty, though, he was like running into, one of our linebackers, like Raj Clark or Mark Mitchell, guys that were just like bricks, brick wall. So yeah, he was pretty tough, that's for sure. Try to think of who else.
Vernon Rollins?
Well, sure. Yeah, Vernon. Yeah, heck. How could I forget Vernon? Vernon was more than just a brick wall. He was like a mountain of bricks. That guy was pretty tough too. Yeah, I'm glad I only had to go against him like 1 year on scout team, and then I had moved up to the top field and didn't have to go against him anymore. But then I was going against Raj Clark when he was kind of a younger guy, and he was pretty tough too. We had some pretty tough linebackers back in the day. You can't forget Scott Yoder. That guy. He put a
Yeah, I played against Scott Yoder in high school. Did not end well for us.
Well, he's always held a grudge against me. I took his number. Like I think he was 36 before I got there, and then I took his number and they moved him to like a 57 or something. So then everybody knew he wasn't skill position anymore once he went into the 50s.
You think he's still mad at you today?
No, he's not. He's a great guy. We actually had, so I'm a football official for high school, and we did a Grundy Center game a couple years ago, and he was on the sidelines because his kid was playing, and we talked after the game. It was really cool to connect. And of course, I see him at tailgates occasionally too, but that was kind of a fun experience to see him on the sidelines cheering for his kid.
So being an official, does that change the way you interact with officials in the games like your kids are playing in?
Probably, yeah. And what's funny is I was sitting next to my son's in 9th grade and he's still playing football, thankfully. And I was sitting, instead of working on a Friday night, I took this year off so I could watch him play on Friday nights. And I was sitting in the stands and with a bunch of the dads that I've gotten to know over the years because they play with my son. And there's some penalty and they're complaining about it. I'm like, no, that was the right call. And that happened like 3 more times. They're like, you're no fun to sit with. We want to complain about the officials and you keep correcting us.
I do have an official question for you then. In the Iowa State game we talked about in the first episode, I punted the ball and it basically almost came back to me. Could I have caught the ball and or advanced it?
Well, college rules are slightly different than high school, but
Okay.
if it crosses, I believe in high school, if it crosses and then comes back either by landing on the ground and then bouncing back, or essentially once it's deemed to have crossed the line of scrimmage, you can recover it, but you can't advance it. Like you can basically stop the ball from continuing to advance towards your own end zone, but you can't advance it yourself. But if it never crosses the line of scrimmage, sure, that's a scrimmage play, and you could catch it and advance it. But once it crosses the line, so that's where it's tricky. Is if it did that in the air, I don't know if you'd really have someone on the line that could see that, because at least at the high school game, some of them, those wing officials are running down the field at that point, and they may not see if it crossed the line of scrimmage or not.
So theoretically, if you kicked it straight sideways, you could go grab it and advance it.
Yes. Yeah, that could be a fun play.
Interesting. Yeah. You kick it straight up without people realizing it, and then someone else catches it, moves it forward potentially.
You basically just pop it to yourself as as a fake. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I suppose, but yeah, I don't know how much you'd have to sell the kick, and actually, I don't know. That would take some pretty amazing athletic feats to pull that off.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah.
We're gonna see how play this year.
Late for that now.
It's gonna come up. Yeah.
There's been some pretty cool trick plays off the punting game over the years. You guys, what was the? Can I ask you guys a question? Did Hayden ever do any fake punts for either of you, or even fake field goals? I'm trying to remember if there were any.
Yes.
I did one, I think. I think I was supposed to throw it to Tim Dwight, and I think by the time it got back to me and got to throw it, like he had to come back to catch it. So I think, and we might have had a penalty or something. So it was kind of, yeah, it was one time. It was like didn't ever really do it in like 4 years. So
Yeah, I remember that play now. What about you, Brian? Any fake
Yeah.
field goals?
We were at Penn State 96, and it was like a 40-something, and I screwed it up because it was supposed to be, I don't know if was Tyne. No, Tyne was the receiver. Driscoll was the quarterback holding. I was supposed to go through and pretend to kick it and then go block the end coming around the edge so that it bought time for Driscoll to roll out and run. But something tells me it wasn't Driscoll for some reason. Anyways, so I was kind of like trying to sell that I was actually going to kick it. But once the ball was snapped, I immediately thought I got to go get that guy. And I just ran to the left and went straight after the guy on the end. And I didn't go through and pretend to kick it. So then I think it didn't look like a field goal. It looked like a fake field goal right away instead of like a delayed one that might actually trick people. So then I was like I panicked in that situation and messed it up. So we ended up he threw it down the field, and I think it like fell short or almost got caught, but it kind of got butchered a little bit. So
you don't think it was Driscoll? Could have been with Randy Reiners potentially? Wasn't he third string at that point?
Yeah, I mean, I'll have to go look at it again, but I think, I mean, it seems like it would be Driscoll because he was the holder, but there's something around Rob Tyne was in there. So maybe Rob was going down and was a receiver on it. So something like that happened.
Okay.
I'll have to dig it up, but that's the only one I can remember that we did, unless we did like a fake extra point one time, maybe like where the holder ran it in to get 2 or something. But I didn't get to do really anything. Like I wasn't throwing, or I know we practiced that a lot, but I don't think we ever executed one where I actually got to do anything.
that's the reason they said that I wasn't holding, was they wanted a quarterback so they could run fake plays. But I don't think we ever ran it.
It was like that one. I think that was
I heard it was they wanted a real athlete there holding. And
That's, I mean,
yeah,
that I can agree with. Yes, Driscoll is a great athlete. So yes, you complimented me also, and then okay, good to know.
yeah, give and take.
Yeah, but build me up to tear me down. I feel it. Nice. Speaking of kicking, what's your thoughts on specialists? Talk about in general about like what it was like look over and see the kickers like throwing footballs at helmets and stuff.
Never been one of those that been like, oh, they're not real football players. I've never felt that way. That's an important part of the game. I think you lose the word foot in football if you don't have someone kicking the ball with the foot. So you got just on the name of the sport, you have to keep someone doing that. I would have a lot more respect if you guys could drop kick. That was a really cool thing from the 40s and 50s, but no one does the drop kick anymore, even though it's still in the rule book. And
it was in arena football. I did actually convert on the drop kick in arena football. Yeah, you get 2 points for that. Yeah.
And Doug Flutie did it for the Patriots too. Sure.
Yeah, he did. That's right.
Flutie, yeah. Flutie did it. Because I think that's a little bit more prevalent in the CFL for some reason.
I think so. Yeah. It's wild. I think it's still legal in a lot of places and a lot of rules. Yeah, it's funny, but it's just, it's the lost art.
Now, the fact that you guys, after you got done with the special teams period and went and played pool or whatever, I mean, Nick, he had this fantasy of still being a tight end, so he was over with the tight ends. Speaking of which, he probably would have been an all Big Ten tight end if he actually gotten a chance there. And that's true. I'm not just pumping you up, Nick. You guys got a lot better at pool than I did, and I resented that. You guys were taking money down at the bars, hustling, playing pool.
You get really good at pool, yeah. We got the best pool playing ever in my life.
I think the hustling
3 games a day.
Yeah, right. I think the hustling we did was euchre tournaments, but that was just because we were really good. wasn't that we were cheating. We just knew what we were doing.
No, I have a lot of respect for specialists. Yeah, I mean, you need those PATs and those field goals. And yeah, I mean, it's even now watching the NFL, watching like Justin Tucker or some of these guys, pretty amazing what they do, especially kicking it from 60 plus yards. But what was the longest you ever hit in practice?
I think I've hit like 63. I knew whatever the NFL record was at the time, I know I could make it in practice.
Okay.
I went on Kinnick one time and I kicked it from the 50, so it'd be a 60-yard. I kicked it both directions. That was my best practice moment. The longest kick I made in a game was the exact same spot as Saturday's kick that guy made from Iowa State against Iowa State. So I was like, oh man, that's the same spot. I hit mine. But that was my longest, was a 54 at Kinnick in that same exact spot as Saturday's game against Iowa State.
Did you like synthetic grass or real grass in terms of your plant foot and your confidence?
The synthetic, because there's no
consistent
variability in the ground, and sometimes the surfaces were slippery. Some of the bowl games and stuff, the surface is terrible where they spray paint and put like a logo and stuff. It's like slick, and so if you're not on one of those spots, it's all right. You get the consistency, and usually it's a much better surface. But I mean, grass is nice, but it gets tore up really bad. And as the year progresses, like the whole extra point area is just torn up. So it's kind of really hard to kick on grass at the end of the year. And the ground's hard, so I'll take, turf any day. I never kicked on the new turf, the sports turf. It was always AstroTurf.
I think the hard part is the stadiums that have like the baseball football mix. So, the wrong time of year, and maybe that's more professional, but the wrong time of year, you're like kicking like into like a third base or whatever it is, a pitcher's mound that's like grass to dirt, which is really hard, or at least hard for me.
Yeah, at the NFL level, right? The Raiders had that. Were there other stadiums?
Candlestick? Was that like that too?
Yeah, Candlestick probably had that.
The old Eagles stadium did, but that was like turf onto that, I think, and it was like literally you could see where the turf came across, and then it was like they sewed a piece onto it, and so it was like, but the stadium at that point was like really quite trash, so it was kind of a rough spot to play. You just hope you didn't blow your knee out running around.
There's some bad NFL stadiums. I mean, it was almost worse than some of the college stadiums.
What was the worst locker room facilities? Was there any as bad as Michigan State's were back in the day?
It was Baltimore. I went to do a preseason game, and it was the Memorial Stadium before they built the new one, and this is 97 or something. It looked like it should have been condemned. I mean, it was like leaks dripping from the ceiling, 0 stalls. Like, I know that was the same at Michigan State, right? They take out all the stall like dividers, just open toilets, but it was like no toilet seat on it, maybe even something like that. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. This is an NFL stadium. I know they were like moving to a new stadium, but it was the same one they had back in the day, as like they quit trying to keep it going for decades. It was awful. I mean, it was worse than any high school facility I've been in. I was just shocked. But then Michigan State was the worst in the college.
Especially when one of your coaches tried to carry on a conversation with you. You're like, there's 6 guys lined up in a row. You're like, this is really awkward.
How am I gonna wait?
No dividers. I'm like, oh man. I know the drug tests were hard enough, let alone doing the other business was rough. Like,
oh man, that's bad.
I guess we got paid back for our pink locker room, right? That place wasn't great either. The older stadium.
Oh, but I mean, I'm sure both of you have been in there. That was like 10 times better than what Michigan State was providing. Jeez.
Yeah, definitely, but smaller and kind of cramped and pink, obviously.
Yeah.
I never went into that locker room until years later. I'd never seen that pink locker room other than like pictures and video, but I never did like a real, I guess, I don't know when we would have seen it, right? So it was only like on a later tour through like football office, or like, hey, you want to see this pink locker room? Like, I was like 10 years removed from Iowa before I ever saw it in person. So I was like,
Oh,
that should have
when I
been
saw
something
it-
they show like right when you get there. I don't know.
Back when they were gonna rebuild the south stands to how they are now, I think that was like 2003, 2004. I knew the construction company that was doing that. I knew some people there, and I asked them. I said, "Hey, are you guys? I know you're building new locker rooms in the south end zone, but does that include like destroying the old ones?" And they're like, "No, those are still there. You want to go see them?" And so yeah, and that's when I saw it was 2004 probably or something like that. I never saw it when I was actually on the team. So
Yeah.
it's kind of hyped up, and yeah, it's small, but not a big deal.
Did they destroy the old locker rooms we had where they came in through the northeast corner down that ramp
They
tunnel?
partially because they built some like concession area or concession facilities in that space. So they basically did tear out the main locker room, but there's still the stairs that go up that, but they go nowhere now. Even those where I was surprised at how small our game day locker rooms were back in the old stadium. I mean, compared to the new ones down in the south end, it's amazing the facilities they have now. Just absolutely amazing.
What was your first game that you came out of the tunnel? Were you in '94? Were you like eligible to play a redshirt, or was it '95 when you first got on the field?
It was 94. It was 94. They I wasn't eligible to play, but they did let those of us that were redshirting, I think three of the three home games we got to dress for.
Okay.
And I think it was, I want to say UNI, but I think that was 96, but maybe in 94 they played UNI.
95.
I'd have to look at the schedule to remind myself, but yeah,
We played
I got
Michigan State, Iowa State, Central Michigan, Michigan, Indiana, Northwestern. Those are the home games.
I think
94.
they all had Michigan in the name.
There's Central Michigan, Michigan State, and Michigan were all home that year.
Yeah. So I think those are the three that I got to dress for. We didn't beat Michigan, but
Yeah.
I think we won the other two games.
Yeah, Michigan State, yeah. And then Central Michigan was like the first game with like Tavian and Tim, so that was pretty wild.
Yeah, I bet.
I can't believe that we had to walk up those stairs to the locker room like that, right? There had to be like 3 or 4 flights of steps, right? It was one of those things that I don't think I ever volunteered to carry the Floyd of Rosedale, because I was like, that thing weighed like 100 pounds plus going up the steps. I'm like, no thanks. One of you guys can do that.
Well, not only that, but we got cleats on that aren't exactly the best footing.
No.
Kind of slick stairs like that. I'm surprised someone didn't fall at the top and then, like at the ski lift, go down and take everybody else out, down below. I guess that would be like a T-bar. Back when I used to learn to ski in Austria. That's a small tidbit I'll throw out there.
Yeah, where did you live? Where are the other places?
So because my dad was in the Air Force, we moved around every couple of years until they got divorced. But I lived in Holland for 2 years and Germany for 2 years. But the squadron would always take a ski trip to Austria, and so the families would go up there, and we'd learn to ski and avoid my mom was always afraid that these huge icicles hanging off the edges of the chalet roof was going to fall and impale us. So for some reason that stood out in my mind even now when I'm almost age 50, that I'm always looking at icicles. I don't want them falling on me.
Where was your favorite spot?
Well, we traveled all over Europe, so a lot of the memories I had, and that was all like 1st through 4th grade, so a little bit hazy. I think it was cool to go up in the Alps. That was really neat. And some of the tunnels that we'd go through are the ones that were kind of half tunnels where you could see out one side and see, the mountainside or the lakes below. I think the Alps were probably my favorite thing to see. And, skiing was fun, even though I was just on the bunny hill at that age. There were a lot of castles. I remember going into a lot of castles and windmills too. A lot of windmills in Holland. Those were neat.
So what's the Iowa connection then? Is that how did you end up in?
Yes. Well,
Osage?
mom grew up in Osage, and
Okay.
so after my parents got divorced, she moved back to where my grandparents were. And my dad was actually from Iowa too. He grew up in Lamar's, and they both went to Iowa State. That's where they met.
Okay.
So that's kind of an interesting connection to Iowa State. But they had actually going back to the recruiting, they wanted me to come and walk on as well, but they had just come off like a 1-10 season, and I was like, nah. Even though I think they even ran under Walden the triple option, I was like, no, I think I'll go to Iowa.
They were pretty bad at that time. Yeah.
They definitely got a
Fine.
decent program now, that's for sure.
Yeah. So in the 95 Sun Bowl, we get bowl gifts. And one of my favorite stories is you were trying out the brush. For some reason, we got a set of brushes in this bowl gift of like various sizes. And that one
I wrote that as one of my
down.
notes to talk about.
So you have to tell the story because I only remember bits and pieces of it. But
Yeah, one of the amazing bowl gifts we got at the Alamo Bowl, or no, it was the Sun Bowl. Sorry,
Sun Bowl,
was a assorted brushes from Revlon. Okay, and I actually had hair not quite as long, luxurious as Brian's hair, but I actually had hair back then, and I was like, just intrigued by these various brushes, and there was a kind of a circular brush. And I'm like, I was all about like trying to hook up some waves in my hair. And I was using this brush and it literally got stuck in my hair. I could not get it out. And so I was in the bathroom trying to, get water on it to loosen it up. Somehow I twisted it so it was so tangled. And of course, Mike Berger, my roommate at the time, thought it was hilarious and alerted the whole floor to come look at Grant, who's got this brush stuck in his hair.
I remember that call. They're like, "You got to come down here and check this out."
Well, it was the whole team. I don't think it was the whole floor.
It
Everyone in the
was
whole
a
team
significant number of people. It was dozens of players were in your room.
Virgo was riding me the hardest, man. But he had nice hair, so he knew what to do with it. I think I ended up having to put some conditioner on there to get it, lubricated enough or whatever to get it back out of there. But luckily, I didn't have to shave off the hair because that was a big part of my my persona back then. It was this amazing hair. But I was secretly male pattern balding at that time, and I just was trying to grow over those areas so that people wouldn't notice it.
I just remember, I think you like opened up the window and chucked it as far as you can into the parking lot. And I would imagine like someone's walking through the parking lot saying, "What's this Revlon brush here doing in the parking lot?" and not knowing the
A
whole
few
story.
strands of blonde hair in it, wrapped really tightly.
That's hilarious. Do you have any other funny stories? What other funny stories you have?
Oh man, I remember our spring breaks that we would take because we were cheap and we'd just drive to Arizona instead of going to Florida or something like that. I remember Nick, you and I took your old red van after your parents said don't take the red van to Arizona. Do you remember this? And then it broke down right before right when we got into town. We basically drove all night, and we made it to Phoenix, but it broke down, and we had to get it fixed. But meanwhile, we'd spent some time at Derek's place or my dad's place during the week until the bus, or not the bus, the van got fixed, and we were able to, I think we drove it back. Don't remember if we drove it back or how we got back.
I think there was a couple of those stories. Yeah, we didn't have very good automobile luck. I think we came back from South Padre, right? And one of the vans broke down that we borrowed from someone too.
Oh yeah, I missed that trip, but I remember on one of those spring breaks that my dad had a pool, and Tim decided to climb up on the roof adjacent to the pool and jump off the roof into the pool. He was always trying to find things to jump off of into water, out at the res or sneaking into the pool at the field house late at night. I got the opportunity to do that with him. That was scary, jumping into a pitch black. Did you ever do that?
You went off like the 3-meter jump in the dark?
Yeah. Oh no, this
Oh.
was up at the top in the rafters. This
Oh
it
my
was
gosh.
even above the 10-meter platform.
Whoa.
One of the scariest things. It took me 5 to 10 minutes just to get up the courage to do it. Just
Wow.
drop into the water, and it hurt because I had my arms out like this when I landed. Just the underarms of my the underside of my arms were red for 2 days.
The facilities are going to be like, what is all these people breaking into the pool and diving off the diving board and out of the rafters? What the hell's going on? Bryce was talking about he almost did that one time, but then he didn't end up jumping off or something. But he's going to go back, and he never did. So it must have been hanging with Dwight.
Yeah. I think we propped open a door somewhere and came back at like 1 a.m. What about the pets that you so lovingly took care of in our shared apartment at the Ridge, Nick? Have you talked about that yet on the
No, we haven't talked about Chachi at all. We talked about an iguana.
Did I have the iguana by the time we moved in the apartment?
Yeah, you had the
Yeah.
iguana, and then you had a piranha too. And then you gave the piranha a pet goldfish.
Yeah, that didn't work out well.
Is that the one that was
I
like
didn't-
swimming around?
I didn't think that one
It
through.
didn't die, and it like kept swimming around like half dead for like a week or two or something. Is that sounding
Yeah, the
familiar?
piranha would just like gnaw on it, and then the next day it would have like the fins missing.
Yeah, that was
torturous.
More brilliant ideas.
Yeah, how'd you get the iguana? So how long did you have it? This is Chachi?
I had the iguana when I think like freshman or sophomore years in the dorms.
Okay.
I think it went to a pet store one day and just like snagged a couple. Someone else was going. I got one. I don't think I thought that through either.
Was it Slutzker's? Did he get the other iguana at the time?
He might have, yeah.
Because Bryce had the story about his iguana freezing, coming back to life.
I think mine like was running down the hallway and it broke its leg somehow. It was like, yeah, it would just like fly down the hallway. Yeah, it was.
Did you bury him in a special place or anything on campus?
I think I maybe gave him away.
Oh, even though he's injured?
No, he recovered. I mean, I took care of him, but
Okay.
once he got healthy, I think I gave
The
him
rehab.
later on. Yeah, I don't think he made it to the apartment. But.
I feel like you had some. I thought you had iguana in the park. I thought there would
I know
be
you
chilling on the couch. He was on the back of the couch. It'd be hanging out for a little bit. Maybe it's 1 year or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna block those memories out.
Price said he called you out and said you didn't ever clean your cereal bowls. Do you have a response for Price?
Wait, you talking to me or you're talking to Nick?
I'm talking to you, Granny. He said that
Oh.
he had to bring cereal bowls into your room because you wouldn't clean your cereal bowls. Is this true?
It could be true. It's likely true. If Eric Price said it, then it's gospel. Yeah. But I may have learned my lesson through his patience and understanding and strategic placement of the dirty dishes in my way here and there. Yeah. Yeah, that kitchen never looked really good, did it?
No.
In our defense, there was not an automatic dishwasher there. We've had to use our muscles, which were extremely sore from working out all the time. There's no way that you can expect us to wash dishes by hand, being Division I athletes.
And the World of Warcraft tournaments that we had going on nonstop.
Oh, yes, I forgot about that. I convinced my mom, I needed a computer, but the main reason I got the computer is so we could play World of Warcraft and connect all the computers up to each other. That was nuts.
Wow.
Ever had one too? Did we have 3 computers going at once, or was it just the 2?
I think it was just the 2, but I think at that point I was like, wow, what are these guys doing? This is impressive. I think because the internet was like just out at that point, right? We could go like to the computer labs, just barely out, and then you guys were like, we'll hook these 2 things up and we'll play each other.
So that wasn't even in the intranet. That would be in what would you call that? A LAN? Basically hooked them up to each other, and we could play World of Warcraft. Wasted a bunch of time doing that. Could have been studying.
I remember, Nick, you had hundreds of t-shirts. I don't know why you brought every t-shirt you owned or saved, but you had them in your room. Somehow it coated the entire floor of your room. Like it was like you could dive into a pile of shirts. I just don't know how you amassed so many shirts, and then you brought them all. Everyone you owned, you must have brought to the room in that small little apartment.
It was like McDonald's when you go to the ball pit and dive into the ball pit. There was a t-shirt pit in his room.
It was like it was like a foot thick too. It was impressive. It was like, it was at least like this thick. Yeah, for sure. I don't know. Yeah, that was.
I felt like it came up to the bottom of the top of your bed. Like it.
Oh, you think it was 2 feet thick?
No, yeah, I think it was that tall. Like I feel like you could have jumped in there safely and landed on a pile. This is at the foot of your bed.
It's just the tide. You know, the moon would act on it and bulge it in one spot like the tide. So
the moon and then the wind. So I'd have like a high tide and a low tide of t-shirts.
yes. I think they were all most of them were Shrine Bowl t-shirts, if I remember correctly.
I just wore Shrine Bowl t-shirts.
Yeah, like camp shirts, random shirts. Yeah, I don't know how you even amass that many, let alone.
It was impressive. Even more impressive that I didn't like pull them up and put them away.
No.
Were they all football camp? They're all football camp shirts, weren't they?
Yeah,
he would have gone to like 50 football camps.
I can even admit that was egregious. Yeah, I think every t-shirt I ever owned, I was like, oh, let's just
put this I got to bring it with me. I might need to wear it.
Yeah, I might need this someday. It might be dirty, but I mean, still got it.
Before I moved in with you guys, I was living with Mark Kirstein and a bunch of guys from Spencer over on Bittersweet Court, which is just south of the Ridge. And I had actually brought some clean clothes, like a big massive clean clothes back after the holidays, but I made the mistake of having them in a garbage bag. And because I didn't have like a big duffel bag I could fit it all in, and one of them threw it out. This big, I had an amazing amount of t-shirts that might have been able to rival Nick's room, but alas, I was never able to compare them.
I think my favorite was heckling Hurley because he would never leave his room. He'd be like, Brian, get out of here. Get out here. What are you doing in there? He was so shy that he just was always sitting in his room by himself.
The only way you can get
antisocial.
Yes, and butthead.
That's right.
It's like, hey, we got Totino's and ice cream out here.
Yeah, and then I'd show up. Hey, how's it going?
Hey guys, what's going on? What was the biggest impact on you at that time, person or thing or event or something like that?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Wow. Strangely enough, just what motivated me a lot was I really look forward to lifting. And I really look forward to winter conditioning. And I know that's really weird, but even today, when I'm riding my bike around town or out in the country or whatever, I think about how hard I would push myself in winter conditioning. And I'm like, this is nothing. You can go harder. I think I took advantage of those purple trash cans yellow trash cans a few times. And you was working out so hard that you'd end up throwing up in them. But I don't know, for some reason, just the actual physical workouts that we would go through was kind of the thing that really motivated me almost more than being on the football field. I just loved lifting and running and stuff. And that maybe means I'm a psycho. I don't know.
So winter workouts enjoyment, that's a little psychotic. Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
So the jump rope station, you didn't throw your jump rope and wrap it around your leg accidentally so you could take a break then? I remember I hated jump rope so much, and you're like, you had a jump rope for like 10 minutes straight, which is kind of hard to do, right? And I literally would be like, jump, and all of a sudden I'll be like, oh, whoops, it would like wrap around my leg and it tied itself in a knot. Finally, just like, so I get at least 30 seconds of rest out of that. I was like, I don't necessarily need to know how to jump rope for anything I do going forward.
It's kind of like getting a circular brush caught in your hair, Yeah, I didn't like jump roping either, but I should have tried that, but maybe it would have pulled all the leg hair out of my legs. I don't want that. Should we talk about our modeling adventure, Nick? Well, what's amazing is that I got to meet Nick's amazing wife last summer when they were in town, and she had apparently lost it or had never seen the magazine.
She had never seen it. No, she was on this
Okay.
quest to find this magazine, but
And I was gonna take a bunch of pictures. Well, I didn't have it with me when we met for lunch at the airliner, but I knew where it was located at my house because it's like I built this shrine around it, so it's prominently displayed. But I knew I could get it, maybe scan some pictures and send it. But by the time they got back to their place, she had found it somehow, or Nick, you had found it. So
I definitely was not in a hurry for that thing to be found. So she definitely found it. And she also like has a tendency to share over social media, like all the random modeling pictures over the years that I've been in. So.
Well, we'll dig those up and put them on the video. So those of you listening can check out the YouTube video and you'll see both of them in their finest days.
oh yeah, I don't have quite the portfolio that Nick does. Nick went on to have much longer career than I did.
I ended up working for the photographer for a long time, and so they needed people to fill in as extras, so I got put in as an extra a decent amount of time. So there was no skill or like other than like, oh, you get in here and do this, hold this. Oh, that's my hand holding this thing, or dress up as a gorilla, or
huh? You're a hand model.
No, you could see like someone's random hand in it, or I got dressed up as a gorilla, or whatever else. I did.
Just need a warm body to do something over here. Nick's around. Let's just let him do it.
Exactly. Hold umbrellas over people and stuff like that.
So I don't think you really explained it then. So you guys were in a famous magazine, an Italian modeling magazine, or what was it?
At least for me, that was the culmination of the story. Nick had a prologue where he again got to be an extra and a bunch of other stuff, but because we knew a gentleman that they used to work at the Iowa Law School named Jack Wurzberger, and he knew a former wrestler from Iowa named Enrico Ciparelli. He was I think a multiple NCAA champion. Yeah. And he went into modeling, I guess, after he left Iowa, and him and Bruce Weber, who was a famous fashion photographer, had a discussion about Iowa, and the subject Iowa wrestling came up, and Bruce was like, well, I do some, non-fashion magazine photography sometime. I'd love to go to Iowa and check it out. Well, he sent his assistant, Lori Bird, correct? Yeah, she's great. She came out to Advanced Scout and kind of check out Iowa City and various facilities in advance of Bruce Weber's visit. And Rico had given her Jack Wurzberger's name. And so when she arrived, she got hooked up with Jack, and he kind of helped take her around and had some other people take her around looking at places. And eventually the whole crew showed up, and I believe it was the summer, and they kind of used Jack's place as a home base or whatever. And we ended up having some dinner there with the crew. He met me, met Nick, met Chris Knepper too. I'm not sure who else, but he's like, hey, I'd love to photograph you guys. And we're like, okay, sure. So I think we came back the next day and he took various photos, all tastefully done. I don't know if Corey Hauser was part of that. I don't remember that. Maybe
Corey Hauser, and I think Chris Kingsbury was in there too.
Okay. Yeah, you might be. Yeah, I think you're right. Chris Kingsbury. Wow. That's a blast from the past as well. And so it was just a kind of a minor deal, but kind of cool. And then I think it was several months later where he had a shoot set up for, is it Italian Vogue, I believe?
I think it was men's Italian Vogue, yeah.
Okay. He actually wanted us to come down to Florida. I think he wanted Chris to come down as well, but by then Nick and I were done with our eligibility, and Chris still had eligibility, and I guess he couldn't get paid for that or didn't clear it or something. But Nick and I went down there and spent several days and did various photographs on set and out in the wilderness in Florida and stuff like that. And it was kind of interesting. And then all of those photos ended up in this magazine, Italian Vogue. So I do have a copy of that.
Nice. We'll have to post that too. Yeah. This is where in Florida? You go down like Miami, like you said, Everglades?
It was outside Miami. I was really surprised actually once we got out away from the coast towards the inner part of the peninsula, and I don't know really how far away we were, but how rural and agricultural it is in there.
That's, yeah, Redlands. It's it's all
Yeah.
farm country out there.
But then we also got to spend some time at Bruce Weber's house right on the beach, which was amazing. It was just a kind of a cool experience, but it was definitely a little mind expanding for me. You know, this small town Iowa kid on, you know, going to South Beach and kind of being exposed to a culture I wasn't too familiar with. So it was still fun,
Nice.
but that's as far as it went for me. And it's nice to have a little keepsake in the form of this this magazine.
What was your experience, Nick? Is that how you got tied in with photography and working with Bruce Weber after that, or is that how you kind of got into that line of work? Because you did a lot of that afterwards.
It was, yeah. I ended up was kind of bouncing around trying to play, you know, professionally after that, and would go to camps and get cut and kind of have like, you know, big blocks of time, you know, that I needed work and whatever else. And so yeah, I think it started out as kept in touch with Lori and that crew, and they said, you know, do you want to come to work on some Abercrombie shoots? So at that point they were shooting like the old school Abercrombie ads, you know, 4 times a year. And so they'd be like, you know, come to Miami and work for us for 2 weeks, you know, just setting up locations, you know, like basically the start of the production, being a production assistant. Started with him, and then once the football kind of went away, then I just stayed on with them full time on as like travel squad. So yeah, definitely a different world in the high fashion world, and kind of, you know, got to travel all over, meet a lot of interesting people, and did it for about 10 years. In the setup of the shoot that we had, Aaron, I think, had like a family, if I remember correctly. He had like a wife and a kid, and I was kind of like, well, wait, I don't. I'm kind of the third wheel here. What's going on with me? Like,
what's your role in this there?
Yeah.
What exactly do you do, sir?
Yeah,
Well,
it's kind of like, who's that guy? What's he doing?
Well, I actually had to kiss my so-called wife that was part of the story
What?
on camera. That was and I was dating my current wife at the time. So that was interesting. And I told her what I had to do, but I said I didn't have any reaction emotionally or physically to that at all. It was just work.
That's why I get paid the big bucks. I can separate the two. That's hilarious.
You had actually injured your finger or something like that, Nick, prior to the meet or the photo shoot, because you had kind of almost a cast on your finger, on your wrist.
I did. I had cut my finger, like the nerve and the artery in my finger. So yeah, I had like a full cast on.
That was kind of a serious deal.
Yeah, I got lucky. I didn't hurt worse than it did. Yeah.
Was it cleaning dirty dishes, or was it a farm accident that caused it?
It was prying apart 2 pieces of frozen chicken with a big knife.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
That'll get you.
having it pointed the wrong way. Yeah. Wasn't the bagel. Usually it's a bagel or that, but yeah,
That's true. Bagel. That's a
learned
common.
that the hard way. Yeah.
Why did you choose the largest knife in the kitchen to do this?
I think I was looking for the most leverage. So yeah, it's kind of like, you know, coming out from quite a ways away, and it was like,
Nice.
but I was lucky enough to call someone and tell them I needed help before I passed out, which is good.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it's got a little lightheaded after that one, for sure.
Oh, blood was everywhere, I'm sure.
Yeah, it wasn't good. Yeah, Bruce was a great experience. We traveled all over the place. We'd, you know, be on the road for a month and a half at a time, you know, in LA and New York. We do random shoots. Like we went up to Canada a few times, Prince Edward Island, Vancouver, did all sorts of different people, athletes, movie stars. I think at one point we shot Bill Clinton for some work of his as well. Yeah. So
That have been the most famous person that you were associated with in a photo shoot?
I don't think I was actually on that shoot, but I was down there. It was in Dominican Republic, but I was there. I didn't go with the actual shoot. I think it was kind of, you know, really real small crew. I think the people that I was most excited about were, I guess, was Muhammad Ali at that point. We shot him, and then
Definitely one of the most famous persons of all time. That's really cool.
Right.
Yeah, interesting. And then interesting to hear like his and Joe Lewis's story too, about how those two were good friends, and then became enemies after a while. So, yeah, like Martha Stewart when she had her ankle bracelet and some of that stuff. So yeah, some great stories from that time as well. So yeah, it's kind of a crazy traveling circus scenario.
That's crazy.
I want to ask you about the Iowa Football Club.
Okay.
A lot of people probably don't know what that is. Can you fill them in on when that started and how you've kind of been really engaged in keeping that going, and how they can learn more about it, I guess?
Yeah, so I wasn't real involved early on. It certainly started in the Ferentz era. I think it was around the 2001 timeframe, maybe 2000. And I believe there was had been a significant amount of criticism directed towards Ferentz and a bunch of alumni, especially guys from say like the or early to mid 80s that had played for Ferentz when he was an assistant. They said we need to get together and issue a statement, kind of in support of Ferentz. And that was kind of the initial activity that kind of brought a bunch of people together and kind of got them re-engaged at an alumni level. Ended up growing a little bit more from that. And I don't know who it was that made this decision, but they said, well, let's do a football camp. And that first football camp, I think, was 2006 or 2007 over in the Quad Cities. And I don't know, Brian, if you were involved in that.
Yeah, I think I was at that one.
Okay. Matt Hughes was a big part of that. And some of the early success, he did a lot of fundraising and got a lot of sponsors to help fund that and also fund some of our activities. And then we started hosting tailgates and doing other fundraisers too. We would help Chuck Long with his charity over in the Quad Cities as well. And we would also, through the proceeds from our camps, we made a fairly large donation to the capital campaign for the new football facility that they currently use. So we ended up contributing, I think, about $100,000 to that effort. But it's essentially a grassroots alumni club. We are a 403B, I believe, is the legal classification of what we are, which is similar to like Elks Lodge or Eagles. It's a fraternal organization, but we're nonprofit. It's basically an opportunity for alumni to reconnect. And used to be that we were doing on a regular basis these kids camps, football camps. But with the COVID, when that hit, we had to cancel that year. And then, that in combination with the football program itself really push getting some traction with their legacy program, which is a great program that we actually work very well hand in hand with. But that has essentially taken the main purpose of our club off our hands. They are now in charge of kind of alumni engagement. And the only thing that we really do nowadays moving forward is just host tailgates at home games. But, we still have a pretty active database of people and there's a lot of communication happening. But, having a place where any alumni under any of the coaches that have coached at Iowa can come and enjoy camaraderie with either the teammates or people that they that played several decades before or after them. And that's essentially what it's about, is just connecting the Hawkeye Brotherhood from the past decades.
We basically found the job you guys were best at, huh?
Tailgating and drinking beer. But we've got some great people that help with all of that and put a lot of time and effort into it. And it takes a bit of planning and quite a bit of effort, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to pull off a big tailgate like that. I mean, there's times like at the Iowa State game, we probably have 1,000 people there, throughout the day, not all at one time, but that's a big undertaking. Provide food and beverages to all those people.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to kind of connect, because I know, like, having brothers that played for Kirk and playing for Hayden myself. I guess Robert probably got recruited by Hayden, then played for Kirk. I was lucky enough to kind of bridge that gap and meet some of the younger guys and some of the other generations of fellows that had played as well.
What's cool for someone that again grew up, at least from fifth grade on in Iowa is that, I grew up and got to know about Iowa football when Chuck Long was doing all these things and Ronnie Harmon and things like that. And it's pretty cool to, to be on a first name basis with Chuck Long now, because we worked together on the board of the Iowa Football Club for many years together. And, I'm just some walk on from Osage and got to meet him, a guy that was a Heisman finalist and a runner up. But what really binds us together is truly, the Hawkeye brotherhood that, that's pretty hard to break those bonds, which is why I feel so, connected with you guys, even though we're miles and miles apart.
Yeah, it's been a great experience. I think you meet guys that have played recently and you meet guys that have played years ago, and there's kind of the same guys, just different names and a little bit different faces, some of the same personalities, traits that you see across the two, which is interesting. But yeah, it's been a great part. But I think that was one of the reasons why or at least I was wanting to, showcase the people that we have in this program and kind of, the community and all that. I think that's maybe gotten lost in all the flash and glitz of the recruiting process recently. So I think it's good to be able to do that, show that like you do come, that you have this like built-in group that's, you have the same shared experience, and also, the support system that allows as well.
We've helped make connections and get, graduates of the program jobs and given them, help them build careers. So that's, there's obviously the vast majority of us never get a chance to have a career in football that we get paid to, at least enough to live on the rest of our life. That's pretty rare. So everybody needs to come up with another way of making a living. And, what's better than tapping into a network of former players that have some pretty broad connections. So that's probably been the most rewarding thing, is to, to help the new graduates and stuff make connections in business.
I want to get a clarification around your football career at Iowa. So you walked on 94, and then you played quite a bit in 95, 96. Remind me, did you end up getting a scholarship at some point or for part of a semester?
Yeah, I did my senior year.
Yeah.
Because I was in the two deep there. But I played mostly, I lettered both in 95 and 96, but I played mostly on special teams until a little bit later in the year when I got a little bit more time at fullback. But my senior year, yeah, there was, I was on I was on all the special teams, and Rod Filer was still a little bit injured going into that year, and Berger was the starter, but I was rotating basically plays with Mike and running plays in. But once Filer got healthy, kind of the three of us were playing quite a bit, and we really felt like we wanted to be dominant in the running game. There was a lot of two fullback sets that we would run. It was kind of nice to, when we were all healthy, to kind of have a stable of guys. Of course, we also had both Cedric and Tavian, and then Rob Tyne. So, I mean, you had six backs there that were all, I would say fairly decent.
I think Cedric Shaw's the leading rusher of Iowa, is he?
I think he was. Mel Betts took over.
Rushing, Cedric Shaw, 4,156 for career.
Okay.
Yeah, he still has.
He's still in career.
Yep.
Wow. For some reason, I thought
Liddell's at 3,600.
Okay, I guess
according to Wikipedia.
Okay.
He also is tied for touchdowns with Tavian, 33 career.
Both of those guys were in the same backfield for several years. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Did Tavian get the ball that much? I remember him being just like such a ridiculous athlete, and then we're kind of like, why didn't we use him more?
Yeah, Cedric, Tavian, and Tim trying to get the ball. Plus Granquist.
Who had the best yards per carry average in 96?
I bet you did. I think you had a couple long runs on your carries, right? What was your best game? You had one, it was either Penn State or Michigan State, or
I think I had one real nice long run. I think it was around 30 yards against Michigan State, but I had a few nice ones against Penn State too. But I think I was just short of 10 yards per carry. Just nuts. It's because they never expected it, Like, why would they give the ball to this guy? You don't have to game plan for him at all.
A lot of people to go around to feed the ball to. It's probably difficult, but I think Tavian got a lot of his in his senior year. I mean, he was on pace there for a while, just going nuts. So he got all kinds of yards, 97, I think, the beginning of the year at least.
My favorite was he was like, I'm only running 3/4 speed. I was like, he's fast enough that he could run 3/4 speed and still beat everyone by 10 yards. I was like, that's amazing. You know you're fast when you do that.
That guy was an amazing athlete. We had a lot of amazing athletes.
Definitely. Who else would you like us to who do you want to see us interview next?
Well, I can't wait to see the Derek Price episode.
It's a good one. You like
Yeah.
it? Yeah, he's same old Derek.
No, that's fantastic. I mean, Slutzker is one, definitely. If you could get him to give you some time, I think that'd be awesome. I think Ortley would be great.
Yeah.
Could you get someone like Cedric Shaw or Demo Odoms? I bet Demo would come on with you guys.
I talked to Demo last year. I saw him in Austin. Yeah, I think he'd come on. He's great talk.
William Inge would be great too, but with him being a D1 coach and stuff like that, I doubt he'd be able to do it. You think of who would be some of the funniest guys?
I think Ryan Terry would be up there. I think he's
Ryan.
I think at least two. Yeah, a couple people mentioned him for sure. Yeah, he's.
What about Goff? You think Goff would be entertaining? I think he's an analyst at Colorado State now or something like that. I met a quality control guy or something like that.
Works for the program. Got it. I thought you meant he was like
he's
a guy.
On staff. Yeah, Nipper would be great, but of course he's lost to everybody in the voids. I don't think anybody's talked to him, unfortunately, for years. Maybe this will bring him out of hiding.
Yeah.
it's like a call for him, like you're putting on.
Nipper, please join us. We must hear your wisdom.
Yeah, we have to get all the people who lived at that apartment too. So we got to get Jed.
Oh, you got to get JED. You got to get JED.
So then they'll complete the whole circle of people at that apartment.
Yep. I actually saw Jed's brother. I think it's Matt Dole. So Joshua Emery Dole's brother, I believe it's Matt. He was at our tailgate on Saturday, and it was good to catch up with him. When he started going by Josh, that just was weird to us. We just always called him Jed, and we will always call him Jed.
We're working on Sherman. I think we got him.
Yeah, Sherman
lined up.
If he's allowed to really do a deep dive, he'd have some amazing stories, especially about Hayden.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, I think the quarterbacks, right? The quarterbacks would have a different relationship with him.
Yeah,
much closer. And
I could put a bug in Randy Reiner's ears if you wanted to potentially get him on.
Randy'd be good.
I know he doesn't overlap with him very much, but
yeah, he'd be good because he would have been under both Fry and parents, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so that'd be interesting. Hear his perspective.
Yeah. What about Epi? Epinesa?
Oh yeah, for sure, Epi. Yeah, he'd be great.
Yeah, I reached out to him. So.
Good deal.
Sure, he's busy. With 3 kids playing right now.
Yeah.
It was great to see his youngest son committed to Iowa. It was awesome.
Yeah, Yote. When the program puts their little family weekend on in early June, that was the weekend he was there for his official visit. So I got to see the whole family and got to talk to AJ, who showed up kind of unexpectedly as well to be there to support him. But yeah, Epi and I got to talk for a while. And I also got to meet his middle son, Eric, who's a walk-on linebacker on the program. And that guy's an amazing story too. He's actually able to do his mechanical engineering degree while playing. And I just have a ton of respect for that, mainly because I failed to be able to do a civil engineering degree and play at the same time. I had to basically transfer into a different program and then do my civil engineering after I was done playing because I just couldn't handle all of that at the same time. So,
wow, that's impressive.
Why don't you talk about that piece? I think that's one of the things that
what you've been doing now.
Well, I'm
So
saying like also like how hard it is to juggle like a serious, school load plus a football load as well, right?
the story behind that was I didn't really get much good advice from my junior college about wanting to do engineering. They said, oh, it'll be fine, everything will transfer, but that was true about a liberal arts. If I were to transfer my credits into a liberal arts program, everything would have transferred fine. But engineering programs don't require all of those humanities and liberal arts classes. So when I actually transferred from Waldorf to Iowa, I had over 2 years, 60 plus credits. Well, I only got 41 of those applied towards my degree in civil engineering. So I did a semester of civil engineering while I was redshirting. This would have been in the fall of '94, and did fine. At that level, it's a lot of your basic engineering courses that have larger class sizes and multiple sections. So I was able to schedule them in a way that it didn't conflict with practice and lifting and other things. Met with Andy Winkleman at the end of the season and did a degree evaluation. And because I had lost all those credits, I would have had to have taken like 27 hours or something in the spring and summer to catch back up. And as we actually mapped out, all of the prerequisites that I would have had to take to stay on track, there was no way I was actually going to be able to stay on track to graduate with my civil degree while playing football at the same time. And that didn't even take into account that, once you get into the junior and senior level classes, at least at Iowa, it's a fairly small civil program. They usually only have one section, and those classes would have conflicted with football. So I made a decision at that point that I can always go back and get that degree later if I want to, but this is my only opportunity to play football at this level. So I made the decision to transfer into the College of Liberal Arts, and I got all those credits back from Waldorf, and that basically put me on track to be able to stay eligible to play football. Now I was still doing a math degree, which was still pretty rigorous, but I did a math degree with the hopes of also teaching. So that's what I actually finished with my degree while I was playing, was a math degree with a teaching endorsement. But
I didn't realize that.
my heart was still still wanted to go back into engineering. So after a year off, I went back in and took basically it took 2 more years to get my civil engineering degree. So then that's what I do now.
Our new job today.
I actually did start a new job today. Yes. Prior to the job that I just left, I spent 21 years as a civil engineering consultant. And then I went into the supplier side of civil engineering products. But then through some various connections I had at a company called HDR, they recruited me pretty hard, and I made the jump back into consulting engineering and actually started with them today. So I'm looking forward to completing my career there. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Congrats.
What else? Any other good stories we didn't cover?
Well, I think you've got to at some point put the our senior photo or senior poster up on the IG page or whatever it is. Do you guys have a copy of that? Do you have a copy of it?
I've got one somewhere, I think, but I think we'll have to dig one up or get a photo somewhere. But yeah, we'll definitely post that here on the video too, so everyone can see it. The impressive photoshopped Hayden Fry and Hawkwatch.
Hawkwatch. But something that's always bugged me about this, about that poster, and I always tell Ted Sarama whenever I see him, is that he's holding this life saving, I don't know, some flotation device. He's holding it over his shoulders, and it's blocking the number on my shirt, so you can't actually see that I'm number 36. And I've always been mad at Ted Sarama for that. No, we laugh about it.
Yeah, we'll post that up there.
Cool. So how much of this, and you'll cut this down to about how many minutes you think?
8.
Yeah. We've got like 3.5 minutes, I think, is probably gonna make all this in there.
Oh no, we're not cutting much.
Cool.
It's all good, all
I
good.
think it's really cool that you guys are doing this.
I find it just enjoyable to reconnect with everybody and remember some of those stories that half forget. And,
I really enjoyed reconnecting with you this past year, Brian, when you came up
it was
for your
fun.
50th birthday. We
Got the
went
party
to-
bus, got
went to-
Bubba
Yeah,
to
went to
drive.
a
You
comedy
two
show.
brought out the party bus, took it to Quad Cities, comedy show. It was a good time. Yeah. Yeah. What were some other spots you like to go to?
Well, the airliner pizza was great. Yeah, the visual entertainment there was nice too.
Good scene there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hamburg Inn's still there, right, too?
Yeah.
Yes, but it was closed for a while and kind of went through various ownership groups, but it was kind of revived in the last year, maybe. Yeah.
That was Kading's group. You put all like he's part of
That's
that
right.
renovation.
I loved going there on Sundays after a game, getting breakfast and a milkshake. We used to hang out at Vito's and the field house a lot. That's actually where I got to know Todd McManus, aka Bubba, pretty well, was working with him at the field house. That downtown scene is a lot different nowadays. Field house is no longer there. The Union's no longer there. I'm definitely not a bar hopping type guy anymore.
What about food? Where'd you go to eat a lot?
Well, you got me onto India Cafe.
Yeah.
You remember the India Cafe buffet?
Yeah.
Oh, I think that's still going too. That was one of my favorite places to go. And did Derek talk about Sub Shop at all? Did you ask him?
We couldn't remember the name of the place.
Yeah,
But you mentioned a
it's-
sub shop.
It's just
What
called
was
the
it called?
Sub Shop.
Where was it at?
Sub Shop.
Exactly.
It was on Dubuque by Mickey's. It's like
Yeah,
on
he
the
was
other side of the
mentioning-
street from the sports column.
Yeah, and he mentioned some burger shop there, right? I mean, he must be talking about Mickey's as a burger place. But he said, yeah, some sub shop. They just hooked us up with subs all the time or something.
Yeah. We got pretty good deals there.
Thanks for joining us, Granny.
Aaron, thanks for
Good to
coming
talk
on the
to you.
show.
Take care. Be
Take
well.
care. All
All
right,
right, take
later.
care.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.